A very good morning, dear students. Do you remember which lesson we have started last time? Yes, you're right. It is infectious diseases and how to prevent them. Today, we will learn the next part of the lesson, that is spread of infectious diseases through food. Okay, look at this picture first. Do you see that so many people are coming and visiting a sweet shop? Or sometimes you might have seen or heard about that so many people have got infected either with gastro or diarrhea. Have you any time seen whenever you go to a mithai shop or a sweet shop, there are so many flies sitting on the sweets and all? Or sometimes if there is a mass gathering and suppose the food has got spoiled, you have heard that so many people have got diarrhea or gastro like diseases. So that means even the food can cause diseases. Okay, so food can cause diseases. And which food can cause diseases? It is the food which is contaminated with the microorganisms. So that means diseases also spread through food also. Fine. So when the diseases are spreading through the food and we eat such type of food, then we can have problems like diarrhea or gastro, wherein the person may lose lot of water in the form of loose motions or maybe vomiting, and when such cases occur, this is also called as food poisoning. Okay, now how this food poisoning occurs? Why it happens? It happens only when the food is not covered, and you might have seen the flies are coming and sitting on them. So how these flies are causing the disease? What happens here is that flies actually likes dirt. They sit on the dirt, excreta of the animals or maybe excreta of the human beings if anyone has defecated in the open spaces, or have done like this. Number 2, what we say, that is called as defecating. And in the open spaces means outside the toilets and all, when they do like that, okay, the flies go and sit on these type of dirty things, right? And suppose when they sit on the feces, feces means the excreta of the person who has intestinal disease like that of the diarrhea or gastro, then what will happen? The germs of the disease are getting stuck to their legs, these flies, and when they come and sit on the food, what happens? They carry those germs from the feces of a person who has got intestinal disease that will be landed upon the food. And the same food if you eat, what can happen? Of course, you will have the problem of food poisoning. That means you will suffer from gastro or diarrhea. Okay, so that is why we need to take care to see that the food is covered enough. Okay, if you see flies like this sitting on the food, you should be aware there you might get some problem like food poisoning. So when the same flies sit on our food, the germs enter the food, and if we eat that food, the germs enter our body, and therefore we can also get the disease. Okay, so that is why it is always important to keep the food covered like this. You might have seen your mother prepares the food, okay, serves you hot, and after you will find that the mother always keeps the food covered, okay, with a lid or something or the other. She will be covering it. If it remains uncovered, then what can happen? The flies come after some time and sit on the food, and if the same food if you have later on, the germs, if they have carried the germs of certain disease, then of course the germs, when you eat the food, it will enter in your body and it will create a problem for you also. That is why we need to see that it is covered. Next thing, how we can get again, not only because of the flies, there are some people who have unhygienic habit of scratching like this, scratching here and there, and suppose such unhygienic habit they have, and if we don't wash their hands thoroughly and prepare the food with the same hand, then what can happen? Even the germs from their hand, suppose they are suffering from some disease, or they might have accidentally touched somewhere where germs are there of that particular disease, then of course when they are preparing the food, that can also enter the food. So food is handled while preparing or serving it. So if someone who has intestinal disease handles or maybe serves the food without washing hands properly, the germs sticking to his hands can enter the food. Fine. And therefore food gets contaminated in this way and can also cause disease. So therefore one must avoid eating such type of food who has the people who have unhygienic habits without washing hands, and if they have intestinal diseases like diarrhea and all, of course we must avoid such food. So maintaining cleanliness everywhere is beneficial for our health. And of course, before cooking the food, one must always wash their hands thoroughly with the soap. Then only we can prevent so many different types of diseases. Always remember students, not only before eating, but the one who serves the food as well as prepares the food, they also should maintain hygiene. That means they need to wash their hands regularly in order to stay away from all these types of diseases. Fine. Now let's see the next part of the lesson. Okay, can you tell? Okay, you have to answer now. You just see what is the question now. What steps will you take to ensure that dust and flies do not settle on the food in your house? Think for some time. What are the steps? What you will take, or the steps which you will take to ensure that the dust, there is dust also in the air, and even flies settle on the food in your house. Now what you will do in such case? Okay, nothing but you will cover the food. You will ensure that the food is covered properly. Okay, that the food is covered properly. So keeping food covered ensures that flies cannot sit on it. Okay, even dust and other rubbish in the surrounding also cannot enter it. So these prevents the microorganism from entering the food. So the best way of keeping the food safe is after preparing the food, okay, it has to be covered nicely. Is that clear? So that no flies, no dust or any other rubbish which is there in the surrounding will enter your food. So if these things are not entering, even microorganisms also will not enter the food, and this can easily the diseases which are spread through food can be prevented. Okay students, so this is how the food the disease spreads through food like diarrhea or gastro. Okay, and how we can prevent it. Once is the one who has intestinal disease, first of all, should not go to prepare the food, and if he or she prepares the food, they need to take care that they have to wash their hands. Second thing, okay, once the food is prepared, okay, whether by a healthy person or unhygienic person, I mean not unhygienic, I mean whether healthy person or maybe the person who has intestinal disease, should always keep the food covered. Okay, fine, for a later use. Next, now spread of diseases by the insects. Let us see which are the diseases which are spread by insect. Now what do you see here? Which picture is this? Can you see a fly which is biting someone? Yes, you're right, it is a mosquito. You can see the pouch of that behind pouch is filled with blood. Correct? You know which disease is caused by this one? Yes, you're right. There are many diseases which are caused by mosquito, and the common one is malaria. Malaria, chikungunya, okay, all these diseases, then dengue, all are spread by mosquito. That means mosquitoes can spread number of diseases, not only mosquitoes, but there are other insects also like flies, as we have just now seen in the case of spread of diseases by through food. In that, mostly the flies which are there carry the germs on the food. So even spread of the diseases is by by the house flies. What we have in a house is mostly they visit us, right? So one can get malaria. Now suppose it is a mosquito, then we can get malaria from the bite of a certain kind of mosquito. So actually it is not mentioned in your textbook, but the name of the mosquito which causes malaria is Anopheles mosquito, and it is the female Anopheles mosquito. So if you want to remember, you can remember the name of the mosquito. Okay, so it is female Anopheles mosquito which causes the malaria disease. When this type of mosquito bites someone who has malaria already, then the malaria germs in that person's blood enter the mosquito's body. How? Because they are sucking the blood from the person, and when they suck the blood, suppose that person is suffering from malaria already, and this blood is taken by the mosquito, and then suppose this mosquito goes and bites another person, the malaria germs will be entering that person's body too, and he too can get malaria. Okay, like this malaria spreads due to mosquito. Fine. So therefore, breeding of these mosquitoes we need to stop. Okay, now not only mosquitoes, but there are other insects also. Have you seen these type of insects? Where are they found? Do you know them? Yes, you are right, they are found in our head. Okay, in the scalp. Okay, what they do? They also suck the blood. They are also called as lysis, or in Marathi we call them as uva. Okay, they are also causing a lot of trouble for the scalp and all. Now, if suppose someone has got attacked with this lice and all, they continuously go on scratching like this, like the monkeys, right? So these are also causing a lot of trouble in our head. Then this is called as fleas. Fleas are mostly found on the animal's body. Okay, but not only animals, if they come and bite us, it gives lot of itching and scratching for our body also. So that is also very dangerous when it bites, because it goes on continuously biting all the places. Fine. So all these types of insects like these mosquitoes, lice and fleas also spread diseases. Okay, so that is why we must stop such diseases, such insects from breeding. Now what is breeding? Breeding means the place where they multiply themselves. That means their eggs are produced. Okay, and then these eggs turn into larvae, and larvae finally turn into the adult insect. Like for example, here I have shown the cycle of a mosquito, life cycle of a mosquito. Here you can see the adult mosquito, that is the female mosquito, lays the eggs, and these eggs mostly require water for reproduction. That is why in the rainy season it is always said never keep any vessel outside in the open, so that the water can get collected in that. Okay, once the water can get collected, what happens? These mosquitoes breed in that. Breed means they reproduce, multiply in more number in the water. That is why we should stop breeding of the mosquitoes, especially during the rainy season. And not only rainy season, but even otherwise also, we should never keep any vessel which is filled with water, so that the mosquitoes, what they do, they put their eggs there, eggs turn into larva then turns into a pupa like thing. Okay, you might have seen sometimes that if suppose there is a drum filled with water for a long time, it has not got disturbed, you will find the larvae of the mosquitoes inside the water, and this same larvae then forms into a pupa into the adult, and then finally a mosquito will be formed. Fine. So this way, this is the cycle, life cycle of the mosquito. So like that, most of the insects are forming first the egg, they give the eggs, then forms the larvae, pupa, and then into the adult insect. So suppose if we stop the breeding of these insects, then such type of diseases will also not spread. So whenever it is the rainy season, especially during the rainy season, we are talking about mostly about the mosquitoes, because a mosquito, it causes so many number of diseases, like as I have told you, not only malaria, but it causes chikungunya and dengue also, which are also very dangerous diseases. Okay, so to prevent the diseases spread by these insects, one needs to take care to stop their breeding. Okay, fine. Even the flies, house flies also are carriers of so many different kinds of diseases. So we need to stop such insects from breeding. So this is regarding the spread of the diseases by insects. Let's go the next part of the lesson, that is spread some of the diseases which are caused by the not insects. I mentioned the insects, but it's not insect, it is by the direct contact. Okay, so you can see spread of the diseases by direct contact. We have number of diseases like ringworm, scabies. Okay, these are what? These are skin diseases. Okay, not only scabies, eczema is there, ringworm. Then we have chicken pox. All these are skin diseases. And if suppose skin diseases, if a person comes in, healthy person comes in contact, direct contact with the infected person, then healthy person also can get these diseases, that is ringworm, scabies, then chicken pox, eczema, conjunctivitis. All these are called as diseases which are spread through direct contact. So now let's see what we can do to prevent these diseases. So ringworms, scabies are the diseases that affect the skin. Their germs are found on the skin. Okay, their germs are found on the outer skin only. Fine. And therefore, if someone else comes in contact with the skin of a person having this disease, okay, this is one. Second thing, if that person's clothes, infected person's clothes somebody else wears, okay, then the person can get that skin disease too. That is why it is always better to avoid sharing of the clothes. And also, if someone is having such type of infection, one need to stay away from these infected people. You must have seen that suppose if someone is suffering from chicken pox and all in the class, that person is not allowed to come to the school. Have you seen like that, students? Yes, of course. Even you might have also suffered from chicken pox and you were asked to stay at home, so that you can prevent others from getting this disease, because this type of diseases spreads through direct contact. Okay, so this is regarding the spread of the diseases by direct contact. Now let's move on to the next part of the lesson, that is an epidemic of a disease. Now, what is an epidemic of a disease? Okay, let's learn that. Now, germs of the diseases like the flu, or maybe diseases like conjunctivitis. Conjunctivitis means sore eyes, or when you have red eyes, that is called as conjunctivitis. So, germs of these diseases like flu or conjunctivitis spread quickly through the air. Okay, they are spreading through air, and air flows everywhere, correct? No, so if suppose the germs of these diseases like flu and conjunctivitis are there in the air and all, what can happen? It can spread the disease to other healthy people also. So many people can, because since it is air, it flows everywhere, so many people can get such diseases all at one time. And when suppose in a particular area, so many people are suffering from the same disease at the same time, then we call such disease as an epidemic of a disease. Like for example, you might have heard of the bird flu nowadays, which is going on. Then once upon a time there was an epidemic of swine flu. Now it is corona, COVID-19, it has spread not only in our area, not only in India, but everywhere. Now since it is every whole world, instead of calling it as epidemic, we call it as pandemic. Pandemic means when it spreads everywhere, but epidemic means in a particular area when so many people are getting at the same time. That is called an epidemic of a disease. So epidemic of there was swine flu, then leptospirosis once upon a time. Okay, there are so many diseases like that which are spread. Now bird flu is also going on. So when such if such things happen, that is called as epidemic. For example, this was regarding the air. If the water of a common source is also contaminated by germs of diseases like cholera, I have also mentioned to you what is meant by cholera, then there is a danger of all those who drink that water will get the disease. This can also cause an epidemic in a particular area. At the same time, so many people may get affected. Fine. So you can see conjunctivitis here. Conjunctivitis. Okay, fine. So now how this can happen? This can happen, if at the same place mosquitoes breed in large numbers. Okay, then many people can get malaria. Okay, then when many people in one area get the same infectious disease, all at the same time, we say that there is an epidemic of the disease. Fine. So you can see how many people can suffer at a time. You can see so many people are suffering at a time, in a particular area. So this way an epidemic of a disease can spread. Then air or maybe water or maybe through food and insects, we have learned now that they spread. Air, water, food and insects are the mediums through which diseases spread. Okay, now hence, if everyone takes care to ensure that the germs do not enter our food, water or air, and to prevent the breeding of insects that spread disease from becoming an epidemic. Okay, so we should take care to ensure that the germs do not enter our food. This is one. Neither the water is contaminated or air is contaminated with the germs. And even preventing the breeding of the insects is our responsibility, so that we can avoid or prevent the spread of many diseases and even the becoming an epidemic. Fine, dear students. So you need to know all these things. Why? Because we can also, as small children also, we can stop, we can prevent so many diseases by just telling the elderly people that this can happen if we do so many things like that. Fine. So I hope so you have understood about this. Okay, so for us it is important for everyone to know that it is important for all of us to make cleanliness a habit. So we need to have a clean habit, hygienic habits. You have learned so many cleanliness or hygienic habits. So I hope so you follow all of them so as to prevent so many diseases, infectious diseases. So this is regarding the spread of the various diseases through various mediums, and also we have seen the epidemic. Fine, next time we are going to learn about how we can prevent so many diseases. So thank you, dear students. We will meet in the next next time for prevention of diseases. Thank you.